This is the Obvious Choice Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Tyler Miller. This show is all about spotlighting incredible individuals in my community that I deem the obvious choice in their respective fields. So sit back, relax, and let's meet this week's guest. On today's episode, we have a guest discussing wealth management. Because we're discussing wealth management, I have a few disclosures I have to mention right away. Number one, the primary purpose of permanent life insurance is to provide a death benefit. Using permanent life insurance accumulated value to supplement retirement income will reduce the death benefit and may affect other aspects of the policy. Number two, all investments carry some level of risk, including loss of principal invested. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit or protect against a loss. And lastly, Brian Schultz is our guest. You will be able to find him and get a hold of him through his website, which is brianjschultz.nm.com. Thanks and enjoy the episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Be the Obvious Choice podcast. My name is Tyler Miller. I run a real estate team here in Blaine, cleverly named the Tyler Miller Team. And I started this podcast because I just, been doing this now for 12 years full time. And in that time, I've met a lot of awesome people and lots of people that have helped me in my personal life, my business. And, instead of keeping them a secret, I wanted to tell everybody about them. And so I'm excited today to share my awesome friend and business partner, Brian Schultz, with all of you. Brian is a certified financial planner with Northwestern Mutual. And he's personally been helping me with my financial planning for, what would you say, 5, 6, 7 years, somewhere in there. I think financial planning is it's a tough topic for a lot of people because I think there's so much financial advice out there and so many misnomers and just things that you hear that make it an intimidating topic, I'm guessing most of the people listening to this or watching this probably don't have a good financial plan. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just reality. It's a tough thing to be like, I'm going to start doing this because that means that you are becoming an adult and you are making these interesting choices. And for me, it was like, oh, I have way less money saved up than I thought. You know what I mean? And I think that sometimes is a scary reality for people. So sometimes it's easier just to live in bliss and in ignorance some ways, So anyways, with all that being said, I wanted to have Brian on to kind of talk about some of the awesome things that he has done with myself and other people, give some good tips and little things that he sees commonly happening in his world. And also talk about, running a business. Brian is also a business owner, and he's just an overall awesome guy. And so with all that being said, Brian, thanks for joining the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Honored to be on. I've seen multiple podcasts. Appreciate your friendship.
Yeah.
So excited to dig in.
Yeah. So first off, I always like to, for people I've never met you before, I always like to start out with things that come to my mind when I think of Brian Schultz. First off, very well dressed all the time. Makes me look like a slob. But hey, in your world, I get it, right? But is also you're just like a regular dude. You're just a good guy with a family, an awesome wife, Nikki.
Yep.
You're super relatable. So I really love that about you. You're not afraid to joke around. You don't seem like a financial planner. You know what I mean? Not.
Thank you.
I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a very good way. When you think, oh, I got this meeting with this financial guy, it's going to be dry, stuffy.
It's not a buzzkill.
Yeah. I know you're going to show up in a pink suit coat, which is badass. I don't know if it's pink. It's more like magenta. Would that be fair? Purpley pinkish.
Yeah, it's retired for the winter. I'm excited for Memorial Day to whip it back out. But
so you only wear that during the warmer months?
It's like white pants, for women. Post Labor Day, it's ooh. But when it's 80 degrees,
Is that just for women? Because Are you telling me I could be wearing white pants right now?
I did see some white jeans in like an Instagram ad.
Yeah.
And I'm not that confident. You could pull it off. I don't know.
If I had a White Claw in my hand,
I would spill on it, is my thing.
Totally. Yeah.
So
you have young kids. Like, they're getting dirty one way or another.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I don't know. I think when you think of like who like a really good buddy of yours is, and the feeling that you get when you're just able to be yourself, like Brian just has a really good quality about him that you can do that. You're very, very just a relatable guy, super fun, and very, very knowledgeable. It's crazy when I start digging with you, the stuff that you're just like, oh yeah, we could do this, this, and this. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds great. And you said the word dough, and I love when you say the word dough. Brian uses dough better than anybody ever, mainly because I love food.
The technical term.
Instead of saying money or cash, he says dough, and I always get hungry. Which makes me love him even more. But anyway, so that's what I think of when I think of Brian. There's so much more to Brian. Cambridge guy, right? Grew up in Cambridge. Yep. So why don't you give us a little background of, maybe where you grew up, anything you want to touch on with childhood, that type of stuff, and then your family now, and kind of how you got into what you're in today.
Sure. Thanks for the intro. I grew up in Cambridge. My wife and I are both from Cambridge. My grandparents were in Blaine, so kind of North Metro, feels like home. My parents and in-laws are still up there. Growing up, my dad was a teacher at Cambridge Isani High School. He taught for 39 years there, and had a great childhood, great upbringing. Played baseball and basketball growing up. I played amateur baseball up in Isani till we were expecting our second. So, What
was your position?
Have a lot of deep roots. Shortstop.
That's a tough position. You'd be very versatile.
Yeah, and 3 kids now, and almost 36. I think I've lost a step from the lateral mobility, but
so it's funny.
So I don't play anymore.
It's funny you say that. So I was literally cleaning out my garage the other day, like 2 days ago, and because we've just been throwing shit on shelves for like 4 years because like we have zero time to do anything with kids and our job and stuff. So I'm like, we need to redo all this. It's terrible. So I started taking things off the shelf to then reorganize. And I came across like in the back of the shelf was like my old softball bag. And like I grabbed it and I just looked at it and I got very sad.
Yeah.
Something I did. I could smell the softball field dirt and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I was just like, God, I really want to play softball like right now. I love it. And I missed that competition, but then I'm like, last time I played softball, I pulled my hamstring so hard that I couldn't walk for like a week.
Yep.
And I don't have time. So it's just like that part.
For me, I remember distinctly, I was still playing. My son was like 18 months old, and I was up in Isani, and it was like this perfect night, perfect summer night. And I'm playing short, and I'm out there, and I was enjoying the moment, but I wasn't enjoying it as much. And the reason being was my son didn't know at the time, he was 18 months, that I was gone, but I did.
Yeah.
And that was like,
I know.
And then we were expecting our second, Faith, who's now 6. And so that was the last time that I played. But yeah, there's something about that. Like I watched the high school state championship. We now live in Matamidi, so we went to the state championship, and I was looking like, these guys aren't any good.
Yeah, I know, right?
I could still play.
Terrible. I can play.
It's like, but there's only way to find out.
Yeah.
Maybe I should play again. But then it's, well, do I really want to
the priority
dedicate the time? Because you can't say,
I know.
When you say yes to something, you say no to something else. So
right.
Choosing my family and aligning, which is something we might talk about, just values and defining your values makes decisions maybe not easy, but easier.
Yeah.
And so, my background, I grew up in Cambridge. Wife and I started dating when we were 15, which is crazy to think about.
Same back. As us.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 15 is that sophomore year?
Yep.
Yeah. Summer going to sophomore year, we started dating.
Summer going in. Okay. So you had us beat by a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were a homecoming, whatever year that was. But yeah, sophomore year. And we dated through college. She went to St. Ben's. I know you're a Johnny.
Same as my wife and me. Yep, I'm a Johnny.
And then I went to school, and kind of leads into how I got into my career. But I went to Waldorf College, which is a very prestigious university in northern Iowa. kind of a Harvard of the Northern Iowa, but
Harvard of Iowa.
Nobody says that, but
You should say that from now on. Be like, where'd you go to college? Harvard.
I,
In Iowa, though, like, so it's not. But
it's a sister school.
yeah, it's basically the Harvard of Iowa.
Yeah.
Do you really want to know about it, or?
Yeah, exactly. So I played baseball there. That's what led me there. I did have a great experience. We did the distance, so we still did. We were still dating throughout college. But my junior year, I reconnected with somebody that I played with my freshman year, who had started an internship in the financial services industry with Northwestern Mutual, which is the company that I'm a part of. And I needed an internship to graduate from this small liberal arts school. And he said, had you ever thought of Northwestern Mutual? And I said, I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
So no. And as they say, the rest is history. So that was 2009. Interned, started.
Great time to get into financial planning, by the way. 09.
Yep.
It was like, for those of you that don't remember, the economy was
something happened in real estate?
Yeah, there was some I can't remember, something really minor, but like the market crashed or something. But
yeah. So I mean, things that I learned is starting. People are really open to a conversation. You know, when things are going well, they have dough, right? They got some money.
That's one dough. Over unders at least 4.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see. So that's one.
Which, by the way, I love it. So continue saying.
Okay.
It's the greatest thing.
So people got some dough when things are going good, but that can be the a hurdle can be, well, what do I need you for?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. But people typically are receptive to a conversation in good times. But in those troughs from an economy or in life, people realize and lean on relationships and people that they trust and experts, whether it be your industry or mine, depending on their situation. And so that's one thing I realized of, I don't know if I would say my business is recession proof, because there's certainly ebbs and flows, but people will always need good advice.
Yes.
So that's when I started. It was 2009. Have been, building my, financial services, financial planning practice ever since.
And you've been with Northwestern Mutual since the beginning.
Yep, I have. Yeah. And so today our office is in Mendota Heights, is where I office out of, but we work with clients all over the state, all over the country.
Right.
And then personally, my wife and I have been married now for 12 years. We live in Mahtomedi. We have 3 kids. Owen will be 9 on the 15th this month, and then Faith is 6.5, and Ruth she's 2.
Crazy.
So yeah, we live a very blessed life.
Did you say what city you live in now? You said Mahtomedi, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. So we're similar in a lot of ways, and that's why, again, I feel like maybe you're just more relatable to me for a lot of those reasons. We got into the real world at the same time and dealt with some of the same challenges and stuff like that. But it's cool to see that, when you got in at such a trying time, it probably helped you learn quite a bit fast. You know what I mean? Like, there were people dealing with lots of issues for sure, where they thought they had all this money and now they don't in real estate specifically. So I don't know if you can say that or not, but just from the outside looking in, it just seems like that would have been a time where you would have learned a lot, just because of what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of conversations with people. Obviously, from everybody's situation is so unique and so different, but there are things that I'll pick up personally of like, ooh, that's something that I want to replicate.
Yeah.
Or something perhaps that I don't. Maybe it's somebody's values or beliefs, and it's their plan. That's not mine. But when you have hundreds and now thousands of conversations, there is some foresight I can get early.
Yeah.
From other people's hindsight, which I can apply to my life as well as I can apply to other conversations.
Yeah.
Because I'm working with somebody that's retired. Well, I've never retired before. And a mentor of mine has shared, you can't solve a problem unless you've been through it before,
right?
Or you have, or you solved the problem. And so, having that knowledge and experience from working with other people that have been through it is really helpful that I can apply in my daily life, and then someday for my own family.
Yeah. So let's get into, just really quickly, so we don't bury the lead. Like, what services are you able to offer people? Like, if someone comes to you for financial help, because there's a couple different business models of financial planning throughout the world, right? And I think it's just good for people to know, hey, if they did reach out to you, like, what are the things that you can help them with?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. From a planning perspective, things that we directly help with would be things like insurance planning, and we don't do all, but our focus would be like life insurance, long-term disability, long-term care insurance. So you think about protecting against some risk and foundational things in case things don't go as planned.
Right.
That's something that we address, and then investment or wealth management. And so that could be in investing really for anything. I mean, I think of when I say that retirement, educating your kids or saving for a particular goal. But of course it could be anything. And so that's things we would directly help with. How we get compensated is through those vehicles. I think where we provide, I would argue the most value is in the relationship, in the planning, and in the recommendations. I view our team as the general contractor to your financial life.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Where we get to know where you're at today, where you're trying to get to, and let's put a plan together.
Right.
We don't do all aspects of the plan. You got a home to sell? Well, obviously, that would be a real estate professional. That's not me.
Yeah.
We need to get an estate plan in place. Or maybe they don't know that, but we're able to educate them, hey, this is something we'd recommend. Here are a couple people in our network that we could recommend, kind of a thing, or accounting. And there's so many areas
and that's what
we do can touch.
I was going to point that out. Like, there's lots of things that you've helped me with that I think you, like you alluded to, you quote unquote get compensated for. But I think there's been a ton of value also in just the way that you can connect me with the right people. So somebody or people that don't know you, I would say, like, you are a great connector. And I think that's another reason we get along so well, because that's a passion of mine too. But you know, if that's not necessarily your problem to solve, you have somebody that can solve that problem. And they've all been amazing people. You know what I mean? So I know that that's a huge value that you bring to the table and something that you're very passionate about too.
Yep. And I would say it's customized. Every conversation is unique. Every plan is different. One favorite quote that I have as it relates to what I do is personal finance is much more personal than it is finance. There's so many things like in a test tube of like, which is better or what should we do or what's rate of return? Sure. But what about your background and your experience, what you learned growing up and understanding at a human level? I mean, that's where we can have paralysis, or this can feel very overwhelming. Because if you say, yeah, I want to reach out to Brian, and by the way, there are other advisors to reach out to somebody like me, it's kind of raising your hand, hey, I need some help, and there can be some shame there.
Right.
When really there shouldn't be. It's just on Instagram and Facebook, we put all the good things.
Yeah, we got it all figured out.
Right, right. So I think that's part of our society, but I'd say that is our roadblock. I don't think it's other advisors as my competition. I mean, they are, sure, but I mean, really, it's other people's preconceived notions of what I do, or I would say their previous experience.
Yeah, I think back to probably it's like 09 or 2010. I mean, doing a budget, like a real budget for the first time, for example, it's not a fun process. So for me, it's different. For my world, people reach out, they're excited. Like, they're like, we're going to buy a house. We're going to finally be homeowners. Or sometimes it's like, not the greatest situation, but they always, I think there's like a glimmer of hope in most of their eyes of what will come from working with me and selling this house or buying a house. For you, it's not always like exciting or fun. Like, it's kind of like, I gotta start becoming a big boy or big girl, right? And then reality hits, and they're like, yeah, I gotta retire in 20 years, and Brian does an amazing job with like a good analysis, showing you right where you sit. Northwestern Mutual, by the way, has a ton of awesome tools, a great kind of hub that I check way more than I probably should. But it like shows like, all right, here's how far you are to retirement. Like, here's what you need based on your goals. And you do that, and then you're like, oh, I can't retire in 20 years. Yeah. You know what I mean? Unless I do more. And so, yeah.
Which means then you have to do less of something else, right?
Right.
Hey, good news. You can save more money, but a dollar can only be in one place at the same time. So
right.
We lock it up until for 20 years, and then who knows, maybe for that time when you check, not only that, but the market went down.
Right.
So yeah, it is a different, or can be a different emotional experience.
And like, I just think looking back at when we first met, and for me to like pull the trigger on contributing to a IRA account or something for my retirement when I had some money, but not a ton. And then to see like 7-8 years later, how much I've saved, and how much I've made from some of the things that you've told me. It's just like, it's not fun to start, but it like, you're not going to fake it. You know what I mean? Like at some point you're either going to have some money for retirement or you're not. And it's going to be, what did you do earlier in your life, in my opinion? Did you talk to the right people? Did you get set up on the right stuff? Yep. So it's like, if you are uncomfortable about financial planning, you're going to be way more uncomfortable come that moment when you run out of money and you're like, I didn't save anything,
Right. I mean, you're really using that term of, imagine how you're going to feel.
Right.
So when I'm meeting with a client, really to try to paint a picture, as a kid, we love stories, right?
Right.
And the cue when there's a story is once upon a time.
Yep.
I can't really.
You can't say that.
I can't do that in a client. I could. People would be like, "What the hell?" But I think
you can do that to
the
me.
adult version. That's fair.
Yeah. I'm a child.
Tyler and all his good friends. It's once upon a time.
Once upon a time, Tyler didn't have any money.
So
then
good.
he met Brian.
So good. But imagine how you're going to feel. Mm-hmm. God willing, we're gonna wake up and be 65. Mm-hmm. How would you like to feel, right? And painting that contrast. And so I think that's one thing. I ask people to judge me on how well we inspire you to take action towards your goals. Not mine. Like I don't choose the problems or the plan. It's meeting you where you're at. And if I can inspire you, well, we're probably not. I'm not a fit for you, and that's okay. And you're probably not a fit for our practice. But really, that's the goal, and that's what I enjoy about what we do to get introduced. And the way that we get connected is through other people. And so we're not doing mass marketing, and so birds of a feather flock together. And so we're connecting from mutual clients that we work with and trust.
Right.
But still, it's a new conversation, and I like the. I don't know what the word would be, opportunity, I guess, to build that trust. I mean, this is your business and ours is a trust-based business. And, I share with people, we don't need to get married, today, on the first date, but I do ask people to go in with an open heart and an open mind. And for me to get to know where you're at, to go through the process. And then from there, they can understand we can mutually agree on a logical next step.
Yeah, because one way your world is different than mine is there are no like contracts. You know what I mean? Like if you don't continuously provide value or show value from the beginning, like there's nothing keeping them with you. You know what I mean? So, which is how it should be in financial planning. But like you have to continuously help these people and work to add value to their lives in order to have a sustainable business, right? Yep. And so that's something you're just really good at. You always have a new like twist on something, or there have been times where we'll touch base and you're like, you're good, man. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yep.
Let's reconnect in 6 months to maybe explore this. But right now you're good. Like what you're doing is working, that type of thing. So I do want to also just emphasize that to anybody listening or watching. Like you are not some sales guy. You're legitimately adding value. And I think you get filled up by just inspiring people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. There's so much negativity. I think if I can provide people a little bit of optimism, and I always think about even when there is that negative, like you were saying, 20 years, you got to save more, to kind of give them still a little bit of a booster shot of optimism of like, hey, but here's what's great. We take this tweak. Yeah, there's still some opportunity. You can't save that $1,000 that the plan says, but boy, did you make monumental progress.
Right.
And then you protect your family and you have peace of mind knowing, God forbid, something happens to you, your family financially is taken care of. I kind of joke, hopefully there's some emotional pain if I pass away.
Yeah.
But the financial pain we can do something about.
Right.
And you're checking a couple boxes and maybe getting an estate plan and something maybe so basic, and we haven't solved all the needs, but we meet them where they're at. And then it's the ongoing relationship. Hey, we'll connect in a year as life evolves. One thing I was thinking too is, there's these different vehicles that you can save into. You mentioned like an IRA, and I might have mentioned a couple. I think the magic isn't necessarily, you can have a great debate like, should I do Roth versus pre-tax?
We were talking this morning, 401k versus Roth and stuff like that.
And the thing that I fall back to is like, well, which one are you going to consistently fund?
Right.
That's what matters, really, right? When you go through a 2008, are you still going to fund it, or are you going to go in and take money out? And I think there's some magic in what you do. You just got to pay your mortgage. 09, COVID, you got to fund it. And I'm not saying real estate isn't a great investment. I'm also not saying real investments aren't a great. What my main point is, what I love about that is the semi-compulsory forced savings. And then what I find is people arrive at retirement and their real estate is one of their biggest assets. Why? Because they had to make the mortgage payment.
Right.
They didn't have to fund a Roth. They didn't have to fund a brokerage account. And
Right.
more times than not in those troughs of life, they didn't.
Yeah.
And so how do we replicate that in your financial plan? Certainly at a scale appropriate level where you're going to arrive and you're going to have multiple buckets and feel really proud of that.
Yeah, and like I think right away when, especially like young people, they got their first house, now they want to do financial planning. I think they sometimes feel, I don't want to say defeated, but like, oh, I'm only going to be contributing $100 a month to this Roth or something. Like, is that going to really do anything? And it's just like, starting out, no, but like honestly, like after 20 years of doing that, I mean, you'll be amazed at how much the forced savings made you save.
It's incredible.
You know
One
what I
of
mean?
the things I was prepared for, there's something called the rule of 72. So if you take any interest rate and divide that into 72, that's how many years it'll take that money to double if you earn said rate of return. And so, we could pick any rate. The one that I had prepared for or was thinking about was 8%.
Okay.
Good rate of return. We're not hitting any home runs here. The markets, if you look at like the S&P, has done better than that historically. But let's just say 8. So you divide that into 72, that's 9. So meaning every 9 years, your bucket of money is going to double. And so if you have a 25-year-old, let's say, and we could use any dollar amount, obviously, but I use 25,000. So at 25, they got 25 grand. Pretty good amount saved up for a 25-year-old, but not crazy.
Yeah. Totally doable, I think.
Yeah, maybe you saved a little into Roth, and you have a brokerage account and 401k with a match, and you add all that up, it's 25 grand.
Yeah.
Well, let's say you never contribute any more, because obviously we could do that calculation as well, and you should keep saving. But that 25 grand, in 9 years, you'll be 34, becomes 50. At 43, becomes 100. At 52, becomes 200. At 61, becomes 400. At 70, becomes 800,000.
Yeah.
So 25 grand becomes 800. Sure, there's inflation that eats away at that. I get that. But even if it eats away at half, 400 grand to me is still a lot of money. On 25,000, you started today. Now, if you start that to your point when you're 51, that,
it's harder.
You're never going to, never going to get there. So early and often beats larger, and sooner and smaller beats larger and later.
Yeah. What in your world? I'm just curious. What is your biggest objection you get? Like the thing you just routinely hear of like why someone is not willing or ready to jump into whatever you're recommending, some financial planning thing. Maybe it's life insurance. Maybe it's whatever. What is like the objection you hear constantly? And like, first, I just want to know what the objection is and like how would you reason with that person? And I know everybody's different, right? But like just generally speaking.
When we get connected to somebody, oftentimes they're working with a current advisor.
Okay.
And somewhat air quotes, because that's a little bit of a defense mechanism. I think about like if you go to, I don't know, Foot Locker, and somebody comes by and they say, hey, Tyler, can we help you find something? You're like, no, just looking.
Yeah.
Well, you're at Foot Locker. You're probably looking for shoes.
I already got shoes.
But if you come back a time or two, that same person comes back a second time. I think I'm good. And they come back. Are you sure there's nothing that we can help you find? Well, you know what? I am looking for Jamie these Air Jordans. Oh yeah, this is right this way. And so when we reach out to people and get connected, I think that's their initial reaction. Hey, I have a 401k and there's like somebody there. I met with somebody at the bank or buddy of mine. They're quote unquote guy or gal. They bought insurance from. They went to college with. So I can't overcome the objection of, hey, it's my brother, and that's great. Like, and if they have a fantastic relationship, again, I'm not looking to replace that. But I think we're just sharing perspective of my goal is to get connected to great people. God willing, I'll be in business for 25 to 30 years. And so let's at least connect so we're in each other's network so I can be a future resource. And so that is my hope and desire, is to have a conversation. Now, once we're in the meeting, I think the objection, it's so different going back to, it's very personal.
Yeah.
But just committing. I think that's just like
committing to the plan, like just in general.
Yeah, well, what happens if I lose my job?
Right.
Just different fears, real or imagined, I would say. And part of me is like, that is actually, the reason why you should do this is the fact that not all do you have to continue to do during hard times. But if we can just start somewhere, and no matter what happens, we're going to continue to do, you're going to be in a better spot. I would say that fear of the unknown is the reason why people will, kind of clam up and not make a decision and say, well, let's think about it. It's like, well, that's the worst answer. It's either
yes or no is fine.
If I can inspire people to take action, but not to stay in indecision.
Okay. I was just curious because, I'm sure I gave you one of those objections a long time ago too. But okay, so I have a few questions that I prepared, and I wanted to make sure that I get these out because I thought they were pretty important to me, I guess, at one point. One of the questions I wrote down is top 1 to 2 recommendations you have for anyone when it comes to getting started with financial planning. Like, I understand the recommendation is just going to be like, start. I get that, right? Versus waiting. Yeah. But like, in your opinion, the things that I don't want to say move the needle more than anything, because I think you can accomplish some of those things down the road when you get a base going. But like, to get started, what are the couple things you would say, like, hey, we got to make sure we have this?
Yeah. I mean, so much we could talk about, and depends on somebody's situation.
Right.
So one of a listener today might be a retiree,
right,
versus somebody just getting started. There's some similarities, but there's very much some differences.
Let's go with people that are younger, maybe under 40.
Yeah. So the thing I was thinking about that age range too, and so where I would start is, let's have an emergency fund in place. Ideally, let's build towards 3 months of their fixed expenses.
Okay.
If they're single income household, either they're single but or they're married but their spouse stays home, then maybe closer to 6 months. But the point is, even if it's not quite that, but to have that, to get out of the routine of something goes wrong. They need to replace a transmission or whatever, and now they have to put it on credit, and now they're paying 20% interest, and it's kind of this virtuous cycle to still build, and that won't benefit somebody like me, but just to build up your savings account. And I would advocate that too, because I don't want to put things into things that you can't touch until you're 59 and a half, which is a lot of retirement accounts. And so I would say build up your emergency fund, pay off, if you can, high interest debt at the same time. I think you can, walk and chew gum. I know it's very, people that will speak, will say you should just pay down debt, or somebody just, no, look at interest rates. So you should save or invest. It's compounding interest.
Right.
And if you pay down debt and you're saving, that's driving your net worth.
Right.
So that might not sell a lot of books, but that's I think the right answer.
Yep.
And taking a personal approach. But yeah, building up savings. And again, not maybe a kind of a sexy answer, but like protecting against your risks. So what happens if, you're kind of paycheck to paycheck? What happens if you aren't able to work? That's why the emergency fund. But what if it lasts longer than 3 months? And so things like long-term disability insurance, I think of, or if you have a young family at home, maybe a mortgage, some inexpensive life insurance. It's based off age and health. So you actually need to get it when you're healthy versus, oh crap, because no insurance company is going to touch you in that event. So those foundational things I think of, and then assuming you have a little bit, in your savings account, the first place I would invest, if I could add one more, would be within your 401k if you have one through your company, because most of them, oftentimes you get a match.
Yep.
And so grab the free money. You put in $1 you get $1. It's 100% rate of return. You can't replicate that anywhere else.
Right.
So I would maximize the match. Many times it's, let's say, 3%.
Yeah.
Well, at least put in 3 to get the 3.
Yep. I love that advice. You touched on life insurance, and I just wanted to just really quick mention, and we can talk about this for a few minutes. Like, so first off, I do disability insurance through you. I do life insurance. I do a bunch of different things as well, but I think they're all really important. But the life insurance thing specifically, I think, is like the cliche in the financial planning world from that I hear from people all the time. Like, oh, they just want me to get on life insurance. And first off, yeah, you should. Okay, like, duh. It's really inexpensive if you're younger and healthier, obviously. And I'm trying to think back to when I first started, so you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong with this. But like what's the regular life insurance called? The one that most people do, where it's renting?
Term life insurance.
So term life insurance, you can look at it as rent, and I'll let you explain that. Mm-hmm. But that, if I recall, you didn't have to do like blood work and stuff like that?
You do.
You do? Okay. Yep. I couldn't remember. So you do blood work, but wasn't the perk with term, or maybe it's the other one, where you do blood work now, and then let's say 30 years later, you're not as healthy, but they don't like knock you for that, right? Because you got in early with the life insurance.
Right. Yep, I'm tracking.
Am I explaining this correctly?
Yeah. So with life insurance, you're right. There can be a lot of opinions or baggage as it relates to life insurance or a certain type, depending on what camp you're in. I mean, I've turned on the radio one day, and everybody should do whole life insurance, and you should too. And then you turn the radio to another station. I hate the whole life insurance, and here's why. Again, it just depends on your situation. Mm-hmm. I think if we're standing in the garage and I'm holding up a hammer and a wrench, I say, hey, Tyler, what's better?
Yeah.
You're like, well, I don't know. What are you trying to do here?
Yeah, what are you trying to do?
Wouldn't that be helpful in answering that question? And so I'm very agnostic as it relates to which one is preferred. I mean, first and foremost, life insurance. If you love somebody or something, I say something because there's some business reasons. You have a loan, you have a business partner, or the continuity of the business. Hey, if I get hit by that proverbial bus, there could be some reasons there. And of course, what most often people think of hey, I'm a breadwinner or contributor to this household financially. I need to be make good. The way I refer to it, I want to make good on my promises, whether I'm here or not. If my plan works if I do. Right. But if God calls me home early, financially speaking, we'll be taken care of, and that's through insurance. And then, so first and foremost, that's the why, or many of the whys, as the first catalyst. You got to get through that door. If you don't need insurance, then like non-starter. The other would be as far as how much. Mm-hmm. Let's make sure we have the right amount of coverage, and some of that could be foresight, right? So you're saying I don't have kids right now, but we God willing, we hope to, or we do plan to have a bigger mortgage. And being this is based off age and health, but typically we look at balance sheet, paying off the debt, final expenses like a funeral, and then say if that was gone, if you were talking to me, you'd say, hey Brian, if the mortgage is gone, we've paid off whatever other debt. We got you in the ground, we threw a good party. How much do we still need coming in the door? Yeah. Or maybe better yet, Nikki, how much would you still need coming in the door? Mortgage is gone, but kids, they're still, kids are in activities, taxes still exist. And she'll say a number, and then we can calculate, okay, here is the amount, right? And then the next question, to your point, so long wind up, is, well, how do we finance that? Because there's different ways we can solve that problem.
Right.
Through what you referred to as kind of where you started, with term life insurance, is really assuming somebody's healthy. Let's assume they're also not a tobacco user. You can still get it. Coverage is more expensive, but healthy, non-tobacco.
Do they count vaping as a knock against that at this
Depends
point?
on the company, but they look at nicotine moreover in that. So I don't know if the insurance underwriters have quite caught up there. So maybe we can come back to that one.
Yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah. So it depends on the company. Some are more liberal than others with their rate classes and stuff. But regardless, term insurance is really inexpensive.
Very inexpensive.
Really, relatively speaking. I mean, if you have somebody that's in their 30s, I mean, gosh, $1 million of coverage is about $50 a month.
Yeah.
You're not going to notice it, or most people won't notice it on a monthly basis. And like if nothing else, just to knock that out, again, that could be through me or somebody else, just have that peace of mind that if something happens, there's not going to be needed to have like a GoFundMe, or my wife doesn't have to go try to find a full-time job,
right
away. She
right.
can properly go through that grieving process and not be compounded with financial debt or stress. So that's term. So term serves a purpose where you can get a lot of coverage at a really low cost. And oftentimes when people's they need a lot of coverage and their budget is more limited, or they have some debt, I mean that's the solution, man.
Yep.
The nice thing to your point is you can get that coverage in place that the family needs, and that's your health is, I guess I would put it, grandfathered, at least for a period of time,
right?
Where you could change or convert that to a type that's called permanent or whole life. And there's a lot of types of that, but the point is one that will always be there, because term. Right. It's for a finite period of time. It's for a term.
Yeah, I know they're all different, but I remember you showing this to me, and like at a certain age, it just like went away, right?
Yeah, like, so it depends on the term. So you could have a 10-year
term. You were uninsurable when you reached a certain age, basically.
It'll protect you for a given period of time. So that might be a 10-year term.
Yeah.
It could be 20 years, it could be 30 years. But if let's say it's a 20-year term, you make it to year 21, insurance company says, hey, congrats, you're still here. Policy goes away.
Yeah.
And you had the peace of mind. So I don't mean to be so tongue-in-cheek about it. Like, you did the right thing in protecting your family. But I really had nobody come in my door or sat down like really excited in their planning, regardless of their net worth. Hey, great news, my life insurance is expiring. You know what I mean? You might not need it, but just interesting perspective over the years. And the other type then, just to contrast, is called permanent or whole life insurance, kind of synonymous. And it is what it sounds like. It's going to be permanent. You're going to own it, meaning... assuming you continue to fund it, it'll be there not if, but when you pass.
Right.
And then there is living benefits that you could access.
Yeah.
Called cash value.
Yeah. Which is when you explain that to me, like in my mind, I was like, okay, term. That's like in case of an emergency or unexpected. You maybe pass away earlier than you would think. Something happens. You don't want to leave your family with the burden of dealing with all that and then having to go get a different job or whatever, right? Like totally understand that, and I think that's like bare minimum what everybody should have. And then whole life or permanent, whatever I call it, that's what I call it. I thought that was either you said it or somebody explained it in a way to me where it was just like, so like it sounds bad now, I guess maybe, but like the only way anybody benefits from that term life is if you die. Mm-hmm. So like everybody else, hey, they get taken care of, but like you're dead. Yep. With whole life or permanent, like there is the ability to utilize what you're paying in.
That's right.
For yourself. So when you are older and you're near, maybe you're past retirement age and stuff like that, you can use some of this money that's supposed to be for your death for the living, like to go and have a good time with your family, to live life with them versus, well, they all get to benefit when I die. It's like, well, let's just all benefit now. You know what I mean? So I thought that was a really unique way to just like put it in perspective for me. And I'm sure you painted that picture a little bit better than I did. But, I was just like, yeah, I mean, I first and foremost, I want people to be taken care of when I'm gone. But while I'm still here, it'd be nice to like, hey, the money that I've been putting towards this plan for years is now going to benefit me in my later years to do fun things with my kids, my grandkids, my spouse, and so
it's the overall utility, right?
Yeah.
Is it better than something else? Again, it's just different.
Yeah.
But there is that living component that you talked about. You could access. I mean, at some point, we're all going to die.
Yep.
So hopefully, you enjoy your retirement and the other assets we've helped save for the clients that we work with. You're spending and enjoying in alignment with your values. And so theoretically, you could spend down a lot of your assets, kind of more of a permission to spend, if you will, if the desire is to leave something, maybe not millions and millions of dollars. But life insurance is, assuming you pay the premium and it's a whole life policy, it is a guaranteed legacy, right? So you hypothetically would still have your home, maybe some money in the bank. You spent down all your other paper assets, right?
Yeah.
then you have the death benefit that's going to pass income tax free. So
Well, and it's more money, at least than what you were saying. Like
That's right.
the projections you were showing me. Again, everybody's different, I'm sure, but like it was like, okay, you would have saved this much, but you can actually access this much, and that second number was more. You know what I mean? Is that am I correct? Am I misremembering?
yeah, and I guess just to maybe for the insurance, I mean, it is very specific to your situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on the same side of the table. Like, what are we looking to accomplish? Where are we at? Because there is a hierarchy of goals, and so within like whole life, you're typically, again, you have that desire, one, for death benefit, but two, where else can we save?
Right.
We're maxing out our Roth, we're maxing out our 401k. I need or want life insurance anyways. It's at least a conversation.
Right.
Right. And so, but if you hear nothing else, it's based off age and health insurance in general. So to figure out how can I take a step in that direction, no matter the product, no matter who you put that with, I think that'd be a win.
But getting in earlier while you're more healthy will definitely keep the cost down,
100%.
right? Versus, well, I haven't done it, now I'm in my 50s, I might as well do it. Like if you would have done it earlier, you would have had the blood work done then, you know. And
Yep. Invariably, you're going to be older.
Yeah, absolutely.
And health can change. Instantly, as unfortunately we all know, and typically we don't get healthier, and so just again that peace of mind as well, that they can't take it away from you,
right,
if health changes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry, that was always very interesting to me. So I think there's lots of people that just don't understand those things at all, and I just wanted to at least touch on those. So. Another one I wrote down is talk through a few stories you have about how you've really helped set people up for future retirement. Obviously, we can leave names and specifics out of it, but like, do you have any like fun stories where someone approached you and they thought that there was no way to really help them, or they were just down in the dumps, and now, you know, down the road you've done something amazing for them?
Yeah, there's a few that come to mind. The first one comes to mind. This particular client is she's in retirement now. We met with her a few years prior to retirement, and she had a good amount saved. You know, she'd built this, you know, I guess machine, but her struggle was, one, wanting to work with somebody that could work with her for a while, meaning not similar age as her.
Yeah.
But two, like, how do I create an income that will be really tax efficient along the way, and to minimize some risks, and to have some peace of mind. And so we were able to put a comprehensive, I guess I would call a comprehensive plan together.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, there's, you know, insurance for guaranteed legacy. She has pension-like income coming in, plus Social Security. She has other assets that are some conservative, some more aggressive. And the thing why she came to mind is less of the numbers, less of the accounts, although I feel really proud of the planning. That could be a whole podcast right there. What gives me the most joy is we were FaceTiming with her, not FaceTiming, Zoom, whatever. And she was at her place down in Florida, and she just came in from the golf course, and she's enjoying life.
Yeah.
And just she's just so joyful. And I think a lot of what we do is like that burden shifting. Like she has that trust in knowing that we're in her corner.
Yeah. You get to carry that burden now for her.
Yeah, yeah. And just to see her, like, that's the new home feeling for me, is seeing that. And, you know, she's done a lot of things with her grandkids and sending pictures of those experiences. And I asked her, too, she's very detailed person. So she sent, like, here's all the things that I've learned going through, because there's just things that, you know, you have to call and do yourself, right?
Right.
And she shared that with me. And I said, what about some more of the qualitative parts? You know, they gave us a lot of the quantitative stuff. What about what have you learned so far? And a couple of things she said is, number one, for the retirees listening, or maybe for your parents, you know, your life can change quite a bit when you're upper 70s and in your 80s.
Yeah.
And so when you're earlier in retirement, really enjoy, you know, whatever that version looks like to you. But a lot of times when you're planning, we just assume we're just going to live to 95 and we'll pass away in our sleep. And hopefully that's the case, but it could look differently.
That's my plan.
It could look differently. And so that was interesting. I was just like, enjoy life.
Yeah.
The other she said is take risks. And she used a story about, you know, dancing just she was the only one, but then she had a couple followers and she just had a ton of fun. She's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So she's like, even in retirement, keep taking risks.
Yeah.
And enjoy life today. So that's not the dollars and cents, although she has a really rock solid plan, which I'm proud of. Like that gives me the most juice.
Well, and I think dollars and cents is important, but at the end of the day, like, you can't take any of that money with you anyways. So if your financial plan doesn't make you happy and able to take risks and live life to the fullest, then it's probably not the best plan anyways. You know what I mean? So I think that's more of a resounding review than someone be like, Brian helped me create X amount of money, and like, you know what I mean? Which is part of it. But more importantly, it's like, hey, I'm able to literally live stress-free, have a blast, and I have a really good-looking financial planner.
It's right.
You know, that's if she can say that,
right,
she's gonna be a happy camper for a long time. I can say one of those things.
I'm sure that's what she's telling her friends.
Absolutely. I have a very good-looking financial planner, guys. That's the only thing I can say right now. But I think we have a good plan, and it makes me feel optimistic for when we get to retirement that I'm going to get to do the same thing she's doing, living it up. You know what I mean? Down in Florida, just sending it on the dance floor. The difference between, we talked about that one. I'm sorry. We talked about term and life. I wrote down cool ways you can help people get in position to invest. Like, I know the investment side of this is also like super important to you and something you're very passionate in. And we've talked about different investments all the time, but like, you know, I think it starts out with like that financial game plan, maybe adding in some of these things we've talked about, but then you get to that point where it's like, hey, this is working. I have money. What do I do? Like, maybe just touch on that a little bit. Like, are there any strategies or just things that you can think of relating to investing that you think might be important for some people to know that you can help with?
Yeah, so a few things. It depends on their situation, but one thing I want to mention, if somebody's a business owner, the thing that I emphasize is your best investment at a human level too, regardless of being a business owner, is back into yourself. And so if you're a business owner, to be back into your business.
Right.
The reason I share that, one, that's a unique area of expertise you have, and your business drives revenue. So that's the first place that I would look at, which sometimes I think is a little bit of a paradigm. It's a different paradigm than a lot of advisors, because, of course, you might hear, hey, why don't you invest that with me?
Yeah, diversify.
Where I get paid.
Yeah.
Right. And so we definitely can help. But I mean, I think first back into your business. And then as you start to build up outside, the first thing I think about is build up some liquidity. You know, when the best opportunities typically reveal in more difficult, trying times.
Yep.
Real estate and the stock market don't perfectly rhyme, or they do rhyme, but they don't go in lockstep. So usually if you're looking to invest in real estate, well, usually your stocks are also going through a bit of a, and so you'd rather not sell, just like in real estate, you'd rather not sell when it's down. So if you can have some assets of liquidity, and that could be just savings right now. And so to consistently be building that for opportunities in life or obstacles. So that's one thing. And then the other would be, you know, how do we minimize taxes today? The more income you make, the more you're going to feel that kind of tax pain. And so there are retirement accounts where you can save into pre-tax, and that could be your company's 401k. Or we can replicate that as a business owner. It might be called something different, like a SEP IRA or a simple or a solo K, just to name a few.
I've done almost all of them.
Like Pokemon.
Just catch them all, man.
Your business has grown and evolved, so we're not
we've
saying
had to make some shifts.
In a great way.
But I point that out because Brian has the ability to get you into any of this type of stuff. We most recently talked about money market accounts. You guys also have connections for that. Like, it's not just like one or two things that you do specifically. I think you just have lots of different options. Or again, if you don't, you have the connection to somebody that can help you with it.
I mean, it depends on what somebody's goal is, and I think life is so multifaceted. You know, it's not like all I want to do is save for retirement. Well, I also want to buy a house soon, or also someday would love to start a business or to buy a cabin. And so those dollars that you could save on a monthly basis, they likely will have multiple destinations, and each dollar will be set aside for something specific, and you should have awareness as to why you're saving it. Even if you don't understand everything, you're like, okay, that's my cabin fund,
right,
so to speak.
Right.
And that's going to be allocated differently than retirement, because I hope to buy the cabin in 5 to 10 years. So
this is a question that just popped in my mind, so maybe you don't have a good answer or anything to it, but I'm just curious, like, so recently I've been made aware that savings accounts are basically at an all-time low. Credit card debt's at a more than all-time high. It's an insane situation. And I think the savings account thing could be explained with maybe people moving their money to money market accounts, things like that. I can understand that. But like in general, you meet with a lot of people, you see a lot of budgets, you see a lot of lifestyle habits, things like that. Like, what sticks out to you as a consistent, like, why the hell can't people save money? Like, what is it? Is it just literally inflation is too high, people aren't making enough money in general? Or is it like a common thing that you see of just like bad financial decisions, bad like just mindset stuff? Like, what is it that sticks out to you?
yeah, it certainly could be, and that would be so, again, personal, but more from like a macro standpoint, though. I could speak to you just from my observation is, obviously inflation. Like going to the grocery store,
right?
You know, like holy buckets.
I watched Home Alone last night. I think I was telling you this. He went to there was a scene where he goes to a grocery store, and he bought like 25 things.
Stole the toothbrush, right?
He did steal a toothbrush, but he bought like 25 things, and she's like, she scans it all. She's like, $19. I was just like, oh, how the times have changed. Holy
Speaking
cow.
of Home Alone, I've seen that how many times, and I never had noticed. You know, he's walking with his bags, right? And the bad guys are kind of trailing him, right? Remember that scene? And I think it's around that scene, the bad guys. Either way, he's got the grocery bags, and I was watching with my son last year, and both bags at the same time instantly break, and my son was just dying. And what he was laughing about is like they both broke at the same time.
Yeah. And I noticed it.
I've never known, like, like that probably wouldn't happen.
So here's where my brain goes, because I literally thought this last night watching it. How the hell did they do it? I'm looking for like a string or something. Like, I don't know how they did. Just in general, like making
that's
the movie.
What we need.
How'd they do it?
We need that explained.
I need to understand this.
Congressional investigation.
The exact same time. The exact same time they break, and I don't like see his hands like move or he's like pulling something, or I'm just like, that's really good.
So put it in the chat if you know or have an idea.
If any of you guys know.
But going back, I mean, groceries that cost more. I mean, you think about like where we've been. So COVID, a lot of money was flooded, right?
Yep.
We were at home, so consumer spending was up. Not a lot in the service industry because we couldn't, go out or travel, or it was more limited.
Yeah.
Costs of everything have really exploded. I know that's not any news to any of your listeners because everybody lives and breathes and realizes that. But also, it depends on your situation. But childcare happens to be really expensive.
Yep.
Happen to learn, like it's crazy.
Can't put a price on the care of your child, Brian.
They're your babies. I get that, and you want to take care of them, but not at the same time. But like the cost, though.
Oh yeah.
So that has impact.
It's helped. It's stopped people from buying houses.
And
they're just like they're like, once this person's out of daycare, I'll have an extra $4,000 a month or something, and I'm just like, holy cow! It's nuts.
It's wild. So I mean, that's a pretty nice house without the house. And again, they're taking care of your babies,
right?
And so, I am not saying that's not worth it, but that's a reality in your budget. The other reality is student loans were deferred.
Right.
And so the last few years, you kind of had this lifestyle creep of you haven't had student loans, but now, and everything's maybe not even creep, it's just increase of even if you didn't increase your lifestyle.
Right.
Life costs more.
Right.
And now student loans have kicked in too. And so you have this kind of perfect storm, and your wages for many people haven't exceeded the rate of inflation. So that's tough. And credit cards, a lot of times people don't realize I mean, I know people know they're high, but I mean, they're in their 20s right now.
Yep.
And so that's tough to catch up when you're paying 24% interest or whatever somebody might be doing.
I just think we're in such an interesting moment in the world right now, like in the history of the world. I promise, I strongly feel in like 1,000 years when people look back to this time, they're just like, those poor people, they had to deal with a lot of stuff. Like, I just think the internet, social media alone has changed and affected our spending habits so much that we just don't even know anymore because it's like just normal everyday life. But like, we can literally press a button and just get anything delivered to us now.
Well,
and it's so easy.
It is easy, and then the card, and you lose.
You don't have the cash.
Yeah, so like as a child growing up, you know, that's a whole nother topic too. The other thing, like comparison, you know, many
That's
people
what
have
I'm
heard
saying.
is the thief of joy. So I might have went up to the North Shore and spent, you know, what, $500. Well, Tyler went to the freaking Bahamas, and now I'm like, and now I feel like that pressure, and there's always been that though. Keep up with the Joneses,
but it's more
it's magnified.
It's everywhere.
Yep.
Like
it's so easy to see their highlight reel, and you're comparing it to your daily life.
But and what I mean by they'll say, "Oh, those poor people," is I genuinely think that at some point, more than likely, social media will get outlawed. Not in our lifetime, but I just think it's either gonna play out or eventually they're gonna figure out like.
So now we're getting into the hot takes. Here we go.
I know, but I honestly I love social media. I'm addicted to it. I think we all are. Or you just don't have it. It's one or the other. It's never like, I kind of dabble. Like you're either in it or you just don't even have it. But like, I just think there's so much mental issues that social media is having on us, but we're living it right now, so we don't see it. And I think we all feel it. Somebody said the other day, it was just yesterday, I was listening to something. I think it was on the news. So I never watched the news, but we had it on last night. And they said something like high school kids were interviewed or polled, like a survey. And it was like 95% of the people surveyed, the kids, said that they would pay money to get rid of social media, but only if everyone else did.
Right.
So like we're all on this thing that none of us want to be on, but you have to kind of.
FOMO.
Right? It's just this weird period of time where I think, again, 1,000 years from now, when Facebook's not even a thing, they're going to be like, yeah, that was just like, they dealt with a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Especially our generation of growing up without the internet, then like our parents trying to figure out what this thing was. Can the kids have it? I'll just let them have it. We don't even know what it is. And then it just kind of, we're now the parents that are like, we know what this is.
Or we think we know.
We think we know, but we know that it's not all good.
Yep.
Where back, I just don't know if they like understood what it was going to be, right? I don't think anybody did. But long story longer, I think we all, anybody watching or listening, can say they've jumped on social media to check something.
Right.
And 20 minutes later, came up from their blackout they just had, and they're on some page about to order some clothing or something, and it's just like the algorithm and the way that they're sneaking advertising now into things.
You start talking about cat food, and all of a sudden it's showing up. Like,
well, it's now in like your stories, right? You go into stories and you're swiping through to see your friends. All of a sudden, there's a picture of whatever it was that you were looking for a week ago, right? And you're just like, I just think it's so easy to spend money right now, and people haven't quite figured out like how to get out of that cycle and like how to not fall victim to that because it's still so new, and the companies are just really good at it. So I don't know. I think it's a weird dilemma, and I could be totally wrong. Maybe that's my conspiracy theory.
And there's also a lot of positives too. So we're talking about not two different things, but like for kids and people that are 14, 15, 16, 100%. And at the same time, there was some amazing fundraiser, kind of grassroots, where people are giving cents and $5 and just giving up their coffee, and just it spread, and they raised $750,000. It was $750,000 to pay off crazy amount of medical bills through this organization. And so like that's amazing. Or like right now, like we'll promote this through, and so like as far as growing your business and connecting more people, one of the things that I somewhat related, somewhat unrelated. Going through COVID, I think everybody was scared. I was, especially early on, like just the unknown.
Yeah. Can I even go outside?
Yeah.
Like
crazy. Should I be walking? Yeah. That's just nuts.
like when we all thought it was like 100% airborne and stuff.
Yeah. But that's where we were. We're quarantining our groceries. And John Maxwell had said, if the voice you're listening to sounds similar to the crowd, you're not listening to a leader. And that really hit me of like, I need to sound different. I need to be hopeful. I need to anchor on what is true, what is known versus like, holy buckets. What I do know is this too shall pass. And that was the line I really, really leaned on, not just in the business. I mean, that was part of it, but a lot of personal.
Yeah.
Like all those beautiful moments you're talking about, like at the hockey arena, like that's going to pass too.
Yeah.
Not just the crap. The crap's going to, that will pass, but so will all the beautiful moments. And so that really helped me center. And I would kind of say to myself, this too shall pass. This, like coming up the stairs, because that was tough for me, not having to commute and like, boom, like I got to be on.
Right.
I'm dad. Like, boom, I'm right now. Work done. Now I'm dad.
Yep.
Yeah. Here, take your dog outside.
Yeah.
It's your dog when,
right.
Not the pronoun changes there, but this too shall pass, like those beautiful moments. That would be a kind of an affirmation, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that's been helpful in my life.
I love that. I love John Maxwell. He actually has a few quotes that I've used as well over the years, but that's a really good one. It's kind of like with everybody goes left, you go right type of deal. That's the way I kind of operate, but I like the way he put that. And no, there's wonderful things with social media and the internet, and like it's the best. I think it's the best time ever to be alive, personally. Like just with all the amazing things we have, right? But the spending part is just like, because you and I just deal with it all the time with our clients, and it's just like someone's got to like get a grip on this at some point. But yes, social media to raise money or promote our business and help people is incredible. There's no better outlet we've ever had.
Yep.
But that, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So, I don't know if that's the best advice you've ever been given, but that was my next question. I mean, that's a really cool line. Say that again, what John Maxwell said?
Yeah, so if the voice you're listening to sounds similar to the crowd, you're not listening to a leader.
Right.
And so that tells me of how do I stand out? How am I different? You're still speaking truth, but I think the world oftentimes is kind of whipsawed by the current, like what's happening right now versus zooming out and offering some perspective. At least that's how I interpret that. Hey, this is really scary. Yeah, but here's what's great about that.
Right.
Like in real estate, there's a lot of risk in starting. Like I'm thinking about for agents.
Oh, yeah.
In my industry, there is. But if there wasn't, it wouldn't be as rewarding, and you wouldn't get paid the same.
Right. Everybody would do it too.
Everybody would do it. You wouldn't get paid the same. But it's those losses that everybody had a plan until they got punched in the face, right?
Yep.
And so that's going to happen. But how do you respond? How do you persist? Because if you keep showing up, you're going to get experience. If you have experience, you're more confident. When you're more confident, you get action, results.
Yeah.
Right? But it all starts with just showing up, staying in the arena.
I can't tell you how much confidence I have gained after going through the last year and a half in real estate. Like with the interest rates going up and get punched in the face, right? We all had a plan. Plan was to sell like 300 houses. That plan wasn't going to happen anymore. But like literally to like kind of think back to like that winter and just it was definitely scary to be a real estate agent. Still is, but it's better. It's easier than it was. Like what those times teach you and like the character it builds if you stay in the arena, right? If you just keep showing up and you power through it, like it almost makes you feel like, I don't want to say invincible or unstoppable, but like now that you can take that punch and keep coming, where like when it's all perfect and there's no risk and everything's great, like it's fine, but can you take the punch? Like how's your chin? Because at some point it's not going to go perfect, whether it's in business or life.
Yeah, amen. I mean, I think about sometimes I've been asked the question, hey, think about when you've been at your best. And typically when I think about that, it's when there's a lot going on. If I think about athletically, pitching my junior year, it might have been my senior year, I finally had an opportunity, bases loaded, nobody out. I got the ball.
Nice.
Like that's what I think of.
So you pitched as well as shortstop.
Well, not from shortstop, but
No, yeah, not from shortstop, but you also played.
yeah.
You were a
So in
pitcher,
high
too.
school, I pitched a lot, and then in college, I didn't. And then I had an opportunity in like a jam. Coach was like, let's see what you can do. And we got out of the inning. I think about that.
Didn't let any.
Well, there
runs
was
up?
a lot of stress. Yeah, no, not in that inning. So I mean, it's not all whatever rainbows. I lost on a walk-off home run in high school to end my high school career. So there's that too. I can pull that memory. But yeah, when you think about when you're at your best, typically it's in trying times. I think about like when my son, we're expecting our son. I'm studying for the CFP. My wife's at home. There's a lot going on, but I felt I was at my best at that time.
Yeah.
It's not when things are just chilling and you're on the couch. That's not typically what you think of.
Yeah.
Even though I like that too.
Yeah.
As far as best advice, boy, I mean, there's probably a lot. The thing that came to mind is defining your personal values. Mm-hmm. Like, what are they for you? And put them on paper, and not just to be on paper, but to drive decisions.
Right.
And so for me personally, we have family values. I have personal values. We have firm or team values. And so, like, for example, me personally, faith, family, and hard work are my personal values. And so when faced with a decision, and it's not always so obvious of like something crazy, like, I probably shouldn't do that. But sometimes it's a good thing that you're contemplating. But when you say yes to that, you're saying no to something else. And so one example, years ago, pre-kids, it was, I think my parents had invited us over, and I was debating, like, I kind of just wanted to not drive an hour and just kind of chill.
Yeah.
But then I reflected on, well, what is my value? One of my first value, second, faith, and then family, in that order, is family. So how does this decision of staying home reflecting my values? Well, it wasn't. And so I decided to go. And so not that decision wasn't necessarily easy, but it becomes easier. Having team values helps from a hiring perspective.
Yep.
It helps us be aspirational, to drive the level of performance for me and everybody else. If people aren't performing up to that, I mean, you could fire if you needed because of not meeting the values. And so I think defining what those values are, and even one step further, is like, what does faith mean to you, for example? Right. What does hard work mean to you? Yeah. You're signing 100 hours. Well, quite frankly, I get I don't work 100 hours. Yeah. Because I want my family to know that kids spell love Time, right?
I've actually never heard that before. I love that.
So I don't. Yes, it's hard work, but not that. But what does that look like?
Yeah. That might be the best advice I've ever heard. Kids spell love Time. I love that.
Yeah. My best advice and things that I've learned, I've borrowed from other people.
Oh, yeah, we all have.
I, of course, did not come up with that, but glad you liked it.
I'm going to tell everybody that you came up with it.
Okay.
Because I hadn't heard
it's
it
your
before.
podcast.
It's my podcast. I can say it. Brian Schultz just said it for the first time ever.
I'm sure there's 20 books with it in it. But
yeah, and I'm sure everyone else has heard of it. I don't know how I've never heard that before, because it seems simple enough. But it's a really good way to put perspective. Because how do you show kids love? Yeah. Right? How do you show anybody love? And it really comes down to time, probably.
Right. Yeah, relationship with your spouse or significant other or a friend. Exactly. I mean, are kids going to care in 10 years? Oh, my dad worked a lot extra, or
he worked 100 hours.
Yeah. Are they going to care, or that my dad wasn't there?
Right. Absolutely.
Or he was there.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what they're going to remember, I think.
That's right.
That's amazing. Who would you say is your mentor or hero?
There's a few people that I think of. I do think of my dad. And so my dad taught, like I mentioned earlier, for 39 years. And so there's a lot of things, there's another quote of what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you say to the contrary. Actions are so, they scream, even without saying anything, just your discipline, I'm sure that your team sees. Mm-hmm. You don't need to tell them. They see you doing the work.
I work hard.
Right, and they see that, and they draft off that energy. Right, but
I don't have to tell them that, because they see it.
They see it, and so there's a lot of things I learned just by observing my dad's importance of faith. That really was anchored from my parents. Yep. Oftentimes going to prayer, first. Yeah. And my dad's loyalty is something as well. The 39 years. My parents will be married soon, 40 years.
It's awesome.
And so that consistency.
Congrats, Mom and Dad.
Yep, there you go. If you're listening, shout out.
No, it's amazing though. My dad is also my hero, so I think it's, I think if you one of your parents isn't a hero or mentor, I think it's hard to. Not that you can't be successful. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think that's something I think everybody hopes for if they have kids, to be their kid's hero or mentor, right? You're leading by example. You're spending time with them. You're doing those things to help them be the best person they can possibly be. Which is one reason why we decided to homeschool our kids. And I know I mentioned that to you because you had said that you were also homeschooled for a little bit of time when you were younger. So, yeah, I think that's great that you can say your dad is one of your personal heroes. Anyone else that comes to mind?
I think of our former managing partner for our office. There's so many things that I admire about him. Very successful within what he, his career. I mean, he's Hall of Fame, managing partner, and yet very relatable, very humble, and puts his family first. He could have kept working, retired earlier, left a lot of money on the table. But really what he cares, that's okay. Like, he's like, it was my time to step away, and now I can invest my time. And I've asked him, hey, would you be willing to mentor? I'll pay you. I'll have skin in the game, right? Not that he needs it. And he's like, I have no interest in you paying me, but I will do it. And we spent a lot of time together, and I've learned so much, and he's helped expand my thinking, and just being a great encourager and listener. Hopefully I'm that to somebody today. Another good piece of advice came from an article was, speak to people's potential versus their current state. And so you might have done something where that's not the article talks about how she did something that, she felt a little shame and guilt. She wasn't able to make it to her godson's birthday, and from her most closest dear friend. And she called her friend to tell her that. And her friend said, you're a good friend. And she talked about, in the area that I felt the most shame, she spoke to my potential. Yeah. And how words have electrical heartbeats is the way she puts it. Words can grow. Negative words too. You still remember some things you fight to not remember, but you can't keep quiet, as well as life-breathing words, right, that you believe just because somebody said it or they saw it within you. And so whether it's in my own kids, whether it's coaching my third grade basketball team with my son, whether it's within relationships, I think that's something I hope people feel. And I obviously fall short, do that imperfectly, but that's what I strive to do. Yeah,
that's awesome. It's the old cliche saying of, like, you were saying, having like that mentor that you've learned a lot from and all that stuff. And I think it's so important to have those mentors, but it goes back to that saying of, like, I think it's like, alone you can go fast, together you can go far type of deal, right? And it's like, if you didn't take the time to sit down with this mentor and learn from them and all that stuff, maybe you could do some more things with your business quicker, but it might end up falling short. Yep. Right.
Tony Robbins said recently, when I said recently, I heard it within the last year or two. He said, who you become will make you very happy or very sad.
That's true.
So it's like this becoming, this pursuit of, I guess, call it growth, is so important. Yeah. So when are you doing that? You're either green or growing, or you're ripe and rotting. Like, there's no just like neutral state. Right. So those are the people that I want to surround myself with, whether it be in my business, in my personal life, with my clients, is people that want to grow. I mean, not just financially. I mean, sure, we'll help people grow their dollars. Right. Their dough.
There's three. We're getting there, folks.
But just, their spiritual walk, their relationships, all that other stuff.
Yeah. No, it's great. And that's what makes you great, your mindset, man. Like, it's just having those perspectives at such a young age. We are still young. I like to tell myself that. But, not everybody ever reaches those perspectives.
What is that movie, Wedding Crashers, when he's like, we're not that young anymore?
Hey, 37. How old are you?
Soon to be 36, so I'm 30.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. I have to now stretch from sitting too long. That's how you know you're getting old. And I'm sure it just gets just so much better. I can't wait. A couple more. So I want to make sure I ask the right question here. And we've talked about some of these already. So I think one perspective we haven't quite touched on in depth enough yet is like, you'll help anybody with financial planning, right? Mm-hmm. But a big chunk of your clientele are business owners. You're well ingrained in the real estate community. That's how I met you. I can't remember who connected us. I don't know if it was my dad or if it was another agent in the office. But anyways, they thought of me. We got connected, and then the rest is history. But maybe just touch on like how you built this business. How is it kind of grown into where you're really aligning a lot with like business owners and helping these people kind of start the planning with their businesses and just incorporating all that in? Like, how has that become your, I don't want to say your niche, maybe you'd say it's your niche, but because I don't want people to think that you can't help them. Yep. You can help anybody, but business owners especially, I feel like that's where you shine a little bit more. Yeah. So kind of maybe talk about that just briefly.
Yeah, I think the kind of the thing that comes to mind, the people that benefit the most from the work that we do, I would say, are business owners. Mm-hmm. To your point, not that we can't help other people, or maybe it's not that we can't help them, but it's maybe I'm not the best fit, but I can direct you to somebody that can. And so, why business owners? I feel like my brain is really wired, first of all, just personally, being that I am a business owner. I enjoy the entrepreneurship, conversations and mindset and growth. Mm-hmm. And so I connect a lot there, just personally. So I gravitate that way. There's a lot of complexity with business owners. Mm-hmm. Like, you're so busy, you're low on time, you're high on tax. You also work with advisors, right? So you have somebody typically that does your accountant, you have your bookkeepers, you typically have an attorney or two. Just to name a couple, you might have a, residential real estate agent, a commercial broker, all the things. And so people don't have the time, and they're curious, what else am I missing?
Right.
And many times as a business owner, they've have outgrown, if you will, the relationships that they have in place. Yeah. As far as if we're getting connected, where they're wondering, hey, I need somebody that can really wrap their arms around the entire picture. I have some things.
Right.
Kind of think about, maybe not that this is junk, but like a financial junk drawer. Like, I've collected these things, but like, is it still relevant?
For me, it was probably like an email folder with like 10, 15 different articles I emailed myself. I'm like, I'm going to make sure to ask Brian about this.
Yep, and that's okay.
It's my financial junk drawer.
Fire away. Yeah, so I mean, to sift through that, to put the right filters on that drawer, so to speak, to figure out, well, yeah, this is good. Like, keep this. Well, this is no longer relevant. Right. And then here's some things that you're missing, and then proverbially to help carry that with you. I really enjoy that.
I feel like
from a business owner perspective.
A business owner is also oftentimes maybe not as risk adverse, right? Like they're open to things. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're somewhat dreamers at times, right? Like, so I think that they're intrigued by ideas that you may have, right? As opposed to people that just haven't gone there yet.
Yeah, and there's typically there's just so many things to think about. I mean, the continuity of the business. Like, okay, you got into it. What's the end goal? Well, you're going to get out at some point. Either you're going to die, you're going to sell it.
Something's
you're going to eventually get out. Do you want this to outlast you? If so, what's the game plan? Let's talk about that. What about attracting and retaining employees? Pretty competitive market right now. Yeah. One way is to pay them more dough. So there's 4.
Sorry, he said dough as I adjusted my microphone.
So you can pay them more dough.
Oh, that's 5.
There it is. So
the over took it.
So you could, and you should pay them competitively on the fair side of or generous side of fair, but there are other ways, for you to look attractive to perspective as an employer. So there's that, but then what about the personal? I mean, really, you do the business to feed your personal life. So there's like 2, it's one client, but there's almost like 3 clients, if you will. And so that I really enjoy that, and I can share, hey, here's, Tyler, what I've done, planning for my wife and I. This is the kind of retirement plan.
I love that you're willing to share that. That's always a question that I've asked you numerous times over the years. And you've always been willing to share that because I think that that's important to know, like, what is my financial planner actually doing? Because I should probably do that.
Right. And I strive to be, my best patient.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be the physician that's really overweight and smoking and telling other people not to. And so you better be taking that prescription. I better be taking that prescription myself. And so be willing to share, knowing, and what I share with clients is knowing after getting to know you. So I could share, hey, Tyler, knowing you and Ashley as I do, and knowing what I know, what I would do if I was in your shoes is, because not always is somebody very similar like we are. But I will say, knowing what I know about you and knowing what I know, what I would do if I was in your shoes is this, and give context as to why.
Right. Yeah, I do that a lot in my business too. I always try to put myself in their shoes after getting to know their situation and then give them the best advice. And sometimes it's different than what I would do for myself. You know what I mean? Like if it was me, it's just different.
Yep.
People have different wants and needs and goals, dreams, all that stuff. Before I get into just a few fun questions, like more like couple word answer questions, is there anything else you want to leave us with in the financial planning world that we haven't touched on yet? I had a few other questions written down. We kind of addressed them, but any other tips or just, you've had so many awesome like little nuggets of mindset perspective things. Anything else that comes to mind you want to leave us with?
No, I would just say work with somebody that you trust or through somebody that you trust. I don't think this is a space where you want to hop on the Google machine and look up, Brian, but maybe this is a catalyst with the trust through Tyler where we would have an opportunity to talk. And of course, there are other people, but I think the currency that we deal in is it's a trust business. And so find somebody that you do trust.
And it doesn't cost anything to talk to you, right?
Correct.
To just the starting out conversation, the discovery meeting, maybe we'd call it. It doesn't cost anything.
Right. Because to your point earlier, not everybody is a fit for our practice.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. So we really are striving for a mutual fit. And there's an element of timing with this too.
Totally.
I planted so many seeds over the years, and some have come to fruition. Maybe some still will, and some have. And you just never know. But it's just investing in leaving people better than you found them as best you can, and trying to add value. And so having a conversation with somebody, again, through somebody that you trust would be my advice.
Okay. Love it. Well, now let's get into the lightning round. Getting to know Brian Schultz on a more fun level here. So really quick, favorite music?
Country music.
I love that about you. Because I'm a big country music guy. Now, is it contemporary, like Florida Georgia Line type country, or are you like back in the day, like 90s country?
Well, I dig 90s country.
I do too.
I have a man crush on Tim McGraw. I named my daughter Faith.
Yes.
Who, if you're not a country music fan, Faith Hill.
Have you seen their show?
Which one?
It was like 19 or no
18,
whatever it was. They're both really good in that, by the way.
I haven't, but I think he's a stud. So I have a man crush on him. We might be going to Vegas next year to watch Garth Brooks.
Love Garth Brooks.
So he's an amazing entertainer.
Favorite Garth Brooks song?
Well, I would say The Dance.
Okay.
It's a slow jam. It's a ballad. I get that, but it's beautiful.
Thoughts on Standing Outside the Fire? 'Cause that's my favorite.
Ooh, great song.
Love that one.
What about Call 'em Baton Rouge?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're
Hello,
like,
Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine.
ooh.
I love it.
That
dude.
was good.
I love it.
The strum at the beginning of Friends in Low Places.
Yeah.
I mean,
Iconic.
let's go.
I know.
So yeah, country music.
I grew up
my son,
listening to Garth Brooks with my dad. And
I went into his room one day, and he was like, I don't know, coloring at his desk, and he was listening to Garth Brooks' Friends in Low Places, and I was like, you know what? As Garth Brooks says, if tomorrow never comes, like if I die tonight, I don't know what else I have
You're
to
gonna
teach
die
him.
happy.
I don't know what else I have to teach him.
He knows everything he needs to know.
He loves Jesus.
Yeah.
He's respectful most of the time.
Yeah.
And he
loves
loves country
Garth
music.
Brooks. Yeah.
So like that's it right there.
You've mission accomplished. Yeah, I love country music as well. That's always. Do you listen to music on Spotify? Ever?
I will. We just got a Spotify. I've
Okay.
been like doing the Pandora thing. But
Okay.
not as good.
So every year, apparently, this is like my first full year on Spotify as well. But like they do like your year wrap, it's called, and it like shows you all the stuff you listen to, your top genre, how many minutes you listen to. Just I've listened to 18 straight days of music according to the hours and all that stuff. But contemporary country music came in at number 1, and then number 5 was other country music. So like of my top 5, 2 of them are country genres.
Yep.
And then the other, like one of them was Christian music. That's mainly my wife hijacking my Spotify account. But I do like that music as well.
Yep.
But like if it was up to me,
Elevation Worship, Dynamite.
yeah. Like, do you ever listen to like Brandon Lake and Phil? What's his face? Phil Wickham, I think.
Oh yeah.
Or,
Yep.
Yeah, they're both amazing.
Yep.
We have those guys going all the time. But yeah, I don't get people that don't like country music. I just don't get it.
There's something beautiful about a story that it can tell.
Yes,
Now
I
there are
love
some
the story.
lyrics that it's not incredibly wholesome, but
Boot, scoot, and boogie.
yeah, it's always a breakup, and there's always
Right.
whiskey or drinking, but there are some like the song "The Dance."
Yes.
There's just so many good ones.
Luke Combs is.
I love Luke Combs. I love for like more modern stuff. I'm more like the Luke Combs, Chris Stapleton
Yep.
variety, and then if it's more classic, then it's hard to beat George Strait, Garth Brooks, Tim
Yeah.
McGraw. So
I never got into George Strait. I don't know why.
go back,
I
go back.
give it a try.
Yeah, yep. I would.
But like,
He's the king of country.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm like.
He's the king, man.
I don't get it. What's your favorite George Strait song?
George Strait. So, boy, there's so many good ones. One, I'm gonna give you one a little bit not as popular. Run.
Run by George Strait.
Run.
Okay. Is it like more of a story ballad type of deal, or is it like feel good, like
It's got or Troubadour. There's another one.
Troubadour or Run?
Troubadour. Like you
I'm gonna
need,
listen to them both.
Please let me know.
I will.
Troubadour. That's just that's so. Watch the music video. There, I think it's a guy it's like a rodeo cowboy.
Yeah.
Like, anyways, it's pure country.
Pure country, yeah. I grew up listening to that stuff. Like I think one of the best pure country songs is "Play Me Some Mountain Music."
Oh yeah,
Dude, we would just blast that in the car.
I'm tapping my knee right now.
Oh,
You
it's
can't
so
not.
good.
Yep.
It's so good. There's like the bridge in like 2/3 of the way through. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, when they're like clapping.
Yes, it's so good.
Yep.
So yeah, that is what I think of when I think of like
So you're
country.
drinking "Play Me Some Country Music," looking out at the lake.
Yeah.
Drinking a White Claw. That's like your happy place.
Yeah, well that's like me. That's like the country I grew up with. Like childhood country is like Play Me Mountain Music, Garth Brooks. Now it's like I'll turn on Luke Combs
Sure.
and that
You
type
got
of
your
stuff.
hat on backwards.
My wife does
Thomas
not.
Thomas Rhett is legit for
Yes.
another new one.
Jordan Davis is great, but like my wife does not love the old country. Like she's
not perfect.
She like she was damn close. It was that close. But like she'll put up with it. Like she likes Garth Brooks and stuff. But if I turned on George Strait, let's say, which I'll try, I'm sure she'll be like, "What are we listening to?" Like it won't.
It's just like a
It just
passive aggressive.
yeah. Like oh that's interesting. I love that for you.
Yeah, that's a song.
Oh man. Okay, that's a good one. What's like if you could think of like a pet peeve that just drives you crazy, like something that you just
Man, a pet peeve.
and none of these were sent in before.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I know.
okay, so the one that comes to mind, the phrase "the wife," I don't like.
Oh. All right.
The reason,
Any reason?
like that's my wife. Like,
Yeah.
like take some pride. Like my wife.
Well, I got to talk to the wife.
yeah,
Like that.
yeah, that like that's just take some pride. Like that's my wife. Like I'm gonna go talk to my wife. So that phrase I don't like. The word "just." Like I just want to talk to you about this. It's like, is it really just that? Like, and it's very limiting from a sales perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get together and show you what I do. It's like, no, like you hope to actually work together too. And so it's such a limiting word. I think we should just purge.
Now I got to make sure I don't say just when I talk to you. I'm like self-conscious all of a sudden. I'm sure
You're putting me on the spot.
I'm sure I've said the wife for sure, but I totally understand what you're saying, why that would be annoying or why that's a pet peeve. It's like, no, it's your wife. Take pride in it. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, no, those were two really good ones actually. best or favorite vacation spot?
Our family loves. This is more what we do more commonly versus like the best vacation we've ever done or whatever. What comes to mind is camping at a state park.
Yeah.
My kids love being outside. We'll sleep in a tent. It's a lot of work, so we don't do it often. But once or twice a year, we'll camp at a state park, whether it be North Shore or otherwise. This past year we went to Lake Itasca. I had never been. As a Minnesotan, it almost feels like a rite of passage to see the headwaters.
Right.
And we checked that one off the list. Really, really awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. So camping. Okay. Now, a place on your bucket list you haven't been yet that like you want to travel to.
I asked my son that question. I thought he'd say something exotic. I'd just be curious what he'd say. And he goes, the place with the faces in the rock. So he wants to go to Mount Rushmore. Yeah. And so we'll have that on the list.
We did Mount Rushmore just like 3, 4, or 5 months ago, somewhere in there. And we stayed at the KOA there. It was really awesome. Yeah, I would highly recommend it.
So I would say that. And then my wife studied abroad in, she did the Greco-Roman trip at St. John's, St. Ben's. And so she had an awesome experience and really wants to go back someday. And so we'd love to go back to Florence, Italy. Or I've never been.
Yeah.
But
I would
love
to get over there.
To see Rome and all the things. So.
I know. I've never been to Europe. That's definitely like on the list. But yeah, specifically Italy would be awesome. Every time I get together with my friends, the Schultons, which his name is Brian Schultz and your name is Brian Schultz. So like anytime I go to text him, I see you. And anytime I go to text you, I see him. And didn't we end up like sending you a text one time? My wife did.
Yeah. So
I can't remember.
You might, if you have to edit this out, that's fine. But I woke up on a Saturday morning to multiple texts with pictures and everything from Ashley, your wife. And it was a picture of her foot. So you guys were, I think you were in Nashville.
We were starting our OnlyFans. Yeah.
But I think you were in Nashville.
Yeah,
you guys were just walking in, a long day and whatever. Maybe she had on heels. I don't know. Yes. But I was just so confused.
Cowgirl boots.
I don't think I should be. So I texted her, like I should, it was like kind of comical. And I was like, do I let her know? Do I not? Like, I should let her know.
Yeah.
Because they kept going back and forth. And so I said, hey guys.
Hey.
This is Brian Schultz. And Ashley, because our names are so close, I didn't realize at the time. She was like, "Oh, ha ha," but then like the text kept coming because she's just like, "Yeah, obviously you're Brian Schultz."
Yeah, Brian Schultz. Duh.
No doubt. And I'm like, no. Like, I don't think I'm supposed to be on this.
Yeah,
but I'm glad you're having fun.
Take me off your list. I don't want any more feet pics. But why did I bring that? Oh, he last time he was here, they were talking about in a 2-hour-long dinner. The wives have already planned we're going to like Rome or something.
I can't wait for the text.
Yeah, you're gonna get on that text. I can't wait. But like, they're like, yeah, we're gonna go in like March. I'm like, no, that's kind of like my busy season. Like I can't, The Schultons, they can do whatever they want all the time. I'm like, I gotta do it when it's like slower for me.
I got a business to run here.
I know. Gosh, people.
You got a team.
Yeah. Well, one of these days it'll work for itself, I think. But right now it still doesn't. Let's see. Are you binging any shows? Are you like a show guy? Do you watch TV?
I have, as it relates to shows, I have a little bit of commitment issues because I know I'm going to get pulled in and then binge it. And then I think about like all the things I could be doing instead of watching a show.
Right.
So then I don't start anything new.
Right.
So this is me being very vulnerable right now.
You're
and so what I do
cutting open a vein. I like it.
Is I've always loved Seinfeld. I have all 9 seasons on DVD. I have the coffee table book about coffee tables. Yeah. Like I have all the things. And so now it's on Netflix. And so if I'm not watching, I'd say I'm binge watching the Timberwolves. I'm in hook, line, sinker on that. Been a follower since, the KG, Marbury, Isaiah Ryder, you name it. And so that's my main thing. But if I watch a show, I'll put on a Seinfeld. And I think about Seinfeld about the over-under would be like twice a day. Like it's like, oh, like that's totally a Seinfeld bit,
That's me in The Office for sure. I watch The Office every night when I go to sleep. Turn it on. Yeah.
Can I tell you? I thought of that show yesterday. So I was meeting with the client, and I asked him. It was through the course of the conversation. I said, "Are you familiar with what a Roth IRA is, or understand how it works?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think so." He's like, "But describe it like I'm 8."
Yes.
And I couldn't help it. I was like, no, describe it like I'm 4.
Yeah, describe it like I'm 4. Was he like quoting The Office?
No, I don't think he was. And like I lost it. I'm like,
Did you laugh?
Oh, and then I said like maybe I should describe it like you're 4. And I don't know if he got it.
Oh my gosh.
That's okay.
It was worth it. That is so good. Yeah, that is such a funny. I declare bankruptcy.
Not what it works.
You can't just declare it. Oh my gosh, it's the greatest show. My wife, she's probably over it because I watch it all the time. But well, that's good to know. Yeah, I didn't think that you were a big TV guy, but never know. Caribou or Starbucks?
Caribou.
Why?
It feels a little more Minnesotan and local.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know if they really are so much anymore. So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Just loyal.
Yep. I'm a loyal guy. So yeah, the Boo. My wife also worked there in high school.
Yeah.
So I got some roots.
I always say to my wife, because I'm hilarious and super cute all the time, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go to the Boo with my boo.
That is adorbs.
Yep. Boo
Boo.
I was gonna go back to the Timberwolves. They're like 16-4.
Yep.
That's nuts.
Yep. Best record in the NBA.
In the NBA.
They don't give out awards.
No.
For best record after 20 games, but like we can be excited. We can be excited.
We can definitely be excited.
You know, like
we deserve to be excited because we have dealt with some.
Just enjoy the ride.
Shit.
This too shall pass.
Yes.
And just enjoy the present, right?
Have you been to a game yet?
Yeah, we saw the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. They played Philadelphia, and they won. They did not play Joel Embiid, but it was super fun atmosphere.
Yeah.
It was great.
Every time I go to a game, it's fun when you're there. I don't love watching it so much until later in the game, but like when you're there, it's kind of like hockey for me too. Like I love being in person for hockey and basketball. On TV, until the games matter.
Yep.
Then I'm hook, line, and sinker. Like I'll watch a whole NBA game in the playoffs. It's fun because they're trying. The starters are playing.
Yep.
But yeah, I definitely want to make it to a game or two, and the tickets aren't like crazy expensive. I think maybe I mentioned it to you earlier about like the Vikings. I think I said that too. Like I can't justify spending $1,000 going to a Vikings game for me and my family. But we could go to a Timberwolves game for like $300 or something.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yep. And that's a pretty good seat, I think. I mean, I haven't studied their chart, but yeah, you can definitely.
But yeah, you could. I looked the other day. I think they had upper deck for like $10 or something. I mean, they were like
that's great,
cheap.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So they're still making it affordable, even though they probably could capitalize on their newfound success a little bit more. But yeah, there were affordable tickets all over, so that was awesome.
There's room on the bandwagon, folks. Hop on.
There is, and Anthony Edwards
he's legit,
nuts, man. And I knew he was legit even like the last few years, but he's just like a different animal. He has that confidence, right? Let's see, a couple more. Do you have a good book recommendation?
Yeah,
because I know you're a book guy. If you're not a TV guy, you got to be a book guy.
Give me just in general.
Yeah, just like what would you recommend?
All right,
maybe like two different books.
So
like
give you
self-help
one
book.
Yeah, so in that. Yeah, there's a few. Going into the new year, I think a timely book would be Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yep.
A couple things about that is that I think of to be relevant is people don't. The quote will always be seared in my brain is people don't rise to the level of their goals; they fall to the level of their systems. And so you're gonna be aspirational, set goals, but what's your how are you going to do that? What is your system? Right. In order because. If you just do that when you hope to, like that's right. By February you're going to be off the rocker. So yeah, I would say Atomic Habits from that genre, maybe related, maybe too close, but the book Daring Greatly.
Daring Greatly
by Brené Brown.
Okay.
Is a fantastic book, a fantastic read. She also has, is it called The Gift of Imperfections? Is a great book that she's also written. Daring Greatly talks about being vulnerable and transparent, those are two that come to mind.
Yeah, Atomic Habits is a very, very good one. I have actually read that one. I don't read many books, but Atomic Habits is awesome. Puts a lot of good things in perspective. But that quote is you have a lot of quotes. You're a quote guy, like in a good way.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I didn't realize how quotable you are.
I quote other people. Yeah.
I know, except for the one about time.
That's
with
right.
Kids, that
That's
was yours.
Absolutely.
And Doe, he's coined that
Yeah.
phrase.
A lot of it's like, well, we're sports fans, right? What is Randy Moss, straight cash homie?
Straight cash, homie. He should have said straight dough, homie.
That's
I don't
right.
know where you were at for that, but well, that's all the time that I got with you today, I think, and I mean, I love having you in my life. So first off, thank you for everything that you continue to do for me, my family, my business. You're always somebody I know I can turn to, whether it's business related or life stuff, you know, and you have a lot of qualities that push me to aspire to be like you. So thank you for everything that you do. Thanks for giving me the time and our listeners and viewers the time today. I know you're super busy, but you know, it just means a lot.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm honored. It's fun to be in your life, fun to be friends, and I'm excited to grow together.
yeah. And for those of you still watching, listening, just again want to thank you for all your support. You know, it's fun doing these podcasts, and the more I do them, the more I know that we are helping some people. I know that I've been told a handful of times that they like the show, they like the podcast, like what we're doing. So appreciate all your guys' support. If you know anybody else that is somebody that you really value, especially in the community here in the Twin Cities, I would love to spotlight their business or just talk with them about what they do. Because, you know, like I said at the beginning, I know a lot of these awesome things, but I think, you know, if I didn't know those, I'd want someone to be putting it out there for everybody else to see. So that's what I'm here to do. And, you know, again, just thanks for your support. And I'll see you on the next Obvious Choice podcast. Have a great day, everybody.